Today we have a panel discussion on what I have called as the non-official India Development Goals #2. There's already my presentation made, so I'm not going to repeat those points. Rather, we're going to have a discussion about it. And we have three young people and my senior colleague, Gurushri Swamy, who's retired from the World Bank, to be at the end. So here we are, ready to go. Samarth, please go first.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Subodh and Gurushri, for having me for this conversation. A little introduction about myself. My name is Samart Khurana, and I currently work as an associate at Deloitte USA. So jumping right into the topic, I concur with most of the points that you brought up for the agenda. And as you mentioned, delivering public services in a time-bound, decentralized, and citizen-friendly manner has been one of the major challenges facing the administration wing of our government. And I feel in order to ensure that effective public delivery, it is important that we focus on four key areas. That is, first of all, we need to make sure that the citizens are informed about the services that are available to them, and providing timely as well as quality services. Third would be addressing citizen grievances. I feel that's very essential. And lastly, ensuring the aftercare to prevent any future issues. So these four key areas should be looked into in detail by the government to ensure effective service delivery. For this, I feel adopting innovative awareness campaigns and use of ICT tools for better access, public-private partnerships for effective delivery, using alternative methods of distributing stuff, and most important, capacity building through training programs. I feel all these initiatives can really go a long way to empower citizens and thereby enhance government efficiency, and have a system that delivers public services in an effective and time-bound manners. So that's my contribution to the topic, and I would love to hear from you guys.
Okay, thank you, Samarth. Samyak, please.
Yeah. Hello. Hi, everyone. So just for a short introduction, I'm Samyak, and I currently work with the think tank in Delhi as a communications associate. So now coming to the NIDG 1 and 2. So I would also first like to highlight my contribution for NIDG 1. The point there, one was mentioned that we should have more IDI instead of FDIs. And I totally agree with that. And it's also because FDI is often concentrated either in the richer states of India or high skill sectors. And this imbalance leads to an increase in the economic gap between the rich and poor. And FDI projects are often concentrated to already well-developed states like Delhi, Gujarat, Maharashtra, while the less developed states like Bihar and Jharkhand are left behind, and once again, thus increasing the regional gap along with the economic gap. Apart from this, in the current scenario, FDI also focuses on service sector where skilled labor is required, but the brunt of our problems lies in the majority of unskilled and semi-skilled labor that we have in India. FDI in sectors like construction, manufacturing, and textile should be further encouraged because of these reasons. And
We'll just go ahead.
Yeah. And the second point in NIDG 1 was also one of the points that was there was MSMEs, and that should be encouraged to create more jobs, because I was reading up and I realized that it's a crucial contribution to India's GDP, as everyone knows, and it contributes more than 29%, and it's responsible for 50% of the total exports of India. And that's a significant amount. So as much as we encourage it, it's good. And also the point of subsidy should, I totally agree that they hamper the growth to a certain point, because it just makes the inequality go in that direction and not move with the other direction. It's like making an easier path for them and not encouraging them to move to the different path. So that is one. When it comes to NIDG 2, I also agree with all of the points that Sir has mentioned there. And I totally agree with efficiency and other responsiveness and other points there. But I would also like to highlight how important transparency is there too. And in the motives that the government has, what is the intention behind it? The communication should be well framed and transparent with the public as well. And in the responsive sense, I would also like to include that it should have a, I would say, feedback. Responsiveness just doesn't mean responding to the situation, but also inviting comments on what they are going wrong with. So that is what I would like to highlight. Thank you so much.
Okay, Samyak, thank you. Okay, Akash, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for having me here. So just to introduce myself, I am a third-year undergrad student at the University of Calcutta. Most of the points have already been made, so I would just try to stick to the points which you have made in your NIDG too, and add a line or two to them. So in the narrative of progress and development, the point which you mentioned first, which I felt was important, was the modernization of cities and villages. Now, these factors stands as a pivotal stone for the holistic development of our nation. And as we move towards the future, it is imperative that we recognize the significance of the inclusive growth, where development of ultra-modern cities is not pursued at the expense of neglecting our rural parts. So the first step in here begins with acknowledging the fundamental importance of connectivity. So our cities and villages must be integrated into a robust network of communication and infrastructure. This involves not only the development of highways and railways and all of that, but also integration of modern communication technologies such as the high-speed internet or mobile connectivity and so on. And we have to understand that we are here in the era of information technology, and we need to bridge the digital divide so that we can empower our citizens with and give them access to information, education, and market, irrespective of their geographical area. Another thing, especially for the villages, I feel, is the promotion of entrepreneurial skills to foster economic prosperity of the villages. In many villages, people specialize in the production of some specific type of goods and small-scale industries, say handloom and handicrafts and many more. We know that. And actually, if these industries, these sectors are given proper exposure, then they might actually have a huge market, not only national, but also international. And so I feel that we have to improve the communication and the transportation, and also that we are able to give them that market. And another thing is that the preservation and promotion of cultural heritage. This should not be overshadowed in the pursuit of modernization. Our cities and villages does hold a rich tradition and history, which must be safeguarded and celebrated. And the culture is kind of the root from where we belong, and it holds us together. And the blind faith towards modernization and neglecting the root might be a bit costly in the long run in the future. Besides, we can think of it in otherwise, like this culture and heritage can be used to attract more tourism, to attract more investment and form some kind of industry and so on. This can be done also. In conclusion, the modernization of our cities and villages in India must be approached in a holistic endeavor, integrating connectivity, sustainability, education, healthcare, entrepreneurship, and cultural preservation. And it is only through this comprehensive approach that we can ensure a balanced and inclusive development, where benefits of progress reach every corner of our nation, leaving no community behind. And the second point, which you also mentioned, was about the efficiency of public goods services. Now, in a nation as diverse and complex as ours, the effective delivery of public goods stands as the bedrock of inclusive and sustainable development. And the sectors which I would like to mention here, the first are definitely education and healthcare. And these are absolutely the fundamental part. I have mentioned them about in the older video also, that these two are the main fundamental part. I'm not explaining it here again. And besides that, we have other services like the electricity supply. And by electricity supply, I'm not just meaning that about extending the electricity supply to every village. We have to ensure a consistent and high quality supply that fuels economic activities and enhances the standard of living for all in every part of the village. It's not about just giving electricity one day a week and then power cut for 6 days. That won't work. We have to make sure that the economic activities also can go on in the proper, smooth manner. And proper electrification does pave the way for industrial development, improved agricultural productivity, better quality of life for the citizens, and ultimately driving overall progress and prosperity. Another thing which you mentioned was about the drainage system. And I completely agree. We do need a robust drainage system to prevent the occurrence of waterlogging, floods, safeguard lives and prosperity during the monsoon. Similarly, I would also like to add another service, that is of the efficient irrigation facility, to use the optimally use the water resources and leading to enhanced agricultural productivity and upliftment of farming activities and so on. And these services are not just about infrastructure; they are about ensuring the safety and security of our people and uplifting their livelihood. And the last point which you mentioned was about the Wi-Fi, the internet security. So the example which I would like to mention here is that in a couple of months back, we have seen that the Kerala government has introduced a new form of scheme. It's probably KFON, it's Kerala Fiber Optic Network. And through this scheme, the government has promised to give internet connectivity, high-speed internet connectivity to more than 20 or 30 lakhs BPL families, and they have ensured that this would be extended in the future. They have also ensured that all the village area government offices gets the proper high-speed network connectivity, and this should be set as an example. And the central government or the other state governments must also follow this, because we have to end this digital divide. We have to ensure that the market is larger enough, and every strata of the society gets the benefit from this globalization and the newer technologies and all that. So in conclusion, what I can say is that by prioritizing these basic needs, we would be laying the foundation for a society that would thrive on the principle of equity, sustainability, and shared prosperity for all. So thank you. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you, Akash. Gurushri?
I want to start with I listened to your ND2 presentation, Subodh, and the question that came to my mind is, when we're talking about quality of life, which is the focus of that index, does it mean does it only mean efficient and responsive delivery of public services, ranging from education and health and infrastructure and hi-fi and so on? I mean, is that what you mean by quality of life? Somehow I feel there's more to it than that, but I'm not sure what it is.
Okay, my answer is this should be the aim of economic public policy. It is not going to improve the quality of life on its own, but it is one of the factors that we, first of all, the term quality of life is not often discussed in economic policy making. So the point of NIDG 2 is to introduce two ideas. One is that we must focus on quality of life and not just on economic growth. Okay. And the second point is that the government has a role in improving the quality of life. Of course, the quality of life is much more than what the government can do, but I am now sticking here to what the government's role is in improving the quality of life. Quality of life is an undefined term. It is not something that we measure I'm not trying to measure it or quantify it. It's a qualitative term, and it can mean different things to different people, and that's fine. What I'm saying is that this is the steps that the government can take to improve the quality of life. If there is agreement that these things will improve the quality of life, or there is a consensus, then that's enough for me. I'm not trying to say that this is all that is needed. I'm not trying to say that I know what is quality of life. I'm saying let's discuss this. What is quality of life and how the government can improve it? And I want to bring this up in the discussion forum, because this is not something that people really talk about. And always the discussion is on how some of these factors are either coming in the way of economic growth or helping economic growth. I'm saying there are really two things. One is economic growth, which is in NIDG 1, and quality of life, which is in NIDG 2. If the police on the chowki is corrupt, that's really not going to change your GDP growth rate, but it is going to hurt your quality of life. If you don't get good service at the government when you go to get your birth certificate, that's not going to change the GDP growth rate, but it's going to affect your quality of life. So I want to separate the quality of life in some way. Of course, the three goals are interconnected and interrelated, but I want to have a separate focus on quality of life. And I want to have a discussion about what the government can do to improve the quality of life. And so that's what I wrote down, that these are the things that can be done through public policy. The rest of it is all, of course, the quality of the homes that's built and the nature of so many cultural, as Akash said, cultural and social, but that's really not for the government to really do that much about. So I'm just trying to focus on where the people can expect something from the government to say, listen, if I have to go and file my income taxes, I should not be harassed. Okay. It should be possible for me to file my GST easily. It should be possible for me to file my income taxes easily. Don't harass me about it because it just wastes my time, just gives me stress. It's got nothing to do with GDP growth as such. So that's where the separation is in my thinking, that we cannot ignore this important part, which I feel has been ignored. People talk about corruption as a barrier to economic growth. And that's a big debate. But corruption, petty corruption, is a barrier to your quality of life. There is no debate about it. Okay? You go there and they do nothing until you pay them whatever X rupees it is now. You don't want to do it, but you do it. The delay is there in registering your company. It's not there. It's not changing the GDP growth rate, but it is affecting your quality of life. So I want to separate out the two, Gurushri, that what is, and I...
Well,
that's it.
Okay, if I may add a couple
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah, please.
I agree with the importance of clean, non-corrupt, efficient, responsive delivery of public services. And you are right, that will make a major difference to the quality of life. But this is just technical, and I don't even want to dwell on it too much. But it is maybe quite well related to growth of your income. If you're able to earn better, more and more, you can actually improve your quality of life quite independently of what the government is doing or not. Now, you can't put in a high-speed bullet train. That is true. Even if you are a billionaire, you can't be traveling on that. But there are many other ways. Good schools, for example. If you can afford, you're a high level income and you can afford good schools, there are private schools you can go to. So that's all I meant to say, that this is quite complex and connected, as you said, interconnected. But there is certainly the biggest role for the majority of people, particularly the low income, middle income people. It is indeed the efficient delivery of basic public services.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that, quality of life depends on your income, plus the factors that I've listed as determining the quality of life can also improve your income, right? So they are interrelated.
Yes.
They are interrelated.
Okay.
If you have better delivery of Wi-Fi, it improves your quality of life. It also improves your productivity. But conceptually, I just want to separate the two and say that they are all interrelated. So when we come down to thinking of how to reach these goals, we can say, listen, we will implement X, and X will go and hit a goal 1.3 and 2.2, right? So that we know that it will give us both. And we still have NIDG 3, and it may even help us with NIDG 3. So when we look at what is to be done in implementation, and I just want clarity in my own mind, this is partly my effort to have clarity in my own thinking rather than be constantly muddled by the internet connectivity. There is a lot of interconnectivity, and one keeps falling into that interconnectivity and saying, hey, the A affects B, B affects A, and both of them affect C. And I'm just trying to conceptually separate out the issues. Then when I begin to write about implementation, then I can say, listen, this goes into goal 1.1, it goes into goal 2.1, it goes into goal 3.2. And so this is right to do. Okay, so it's a way to think about how to get an implementation plan, and we know what it is that is helping. It may affect two things, and there may be an interconnectivity, and we can sort it out. But for the moment, I want to emphasize what I've finally called as effective, efficient, and responsive governance, because I find that this is not really discussed by economists. We discuss fiscal policy, we discuss monetary policy, foreign exchange policy, but in our courses,
no, I disagree, Subodh. Governance was a big issue in the World Bank.
But we don't do much about it.
No, they were doing. I don't know what they're doing now, but there was a lot going on.
But you still see the governance is lacking. No, the problem is the growth is taking place, but governance has improved. Certainly DBT is very helpful. That's a big step. Direct benefit of transfer is a big step. Certainly it has improved in India in terms of the passport. You can get a passport online and much faster. And yes, some things have improved. There's no question about it. There's absolutely no question about it. The thing is to have a clear goal. It's not that we are not doing something, but what I say is good is not good enough. We need to be excellent. Good is not good enough. And I now talk in cricket terms, our run rate is like that of test matches. We are going.
I think in the bank, governance was basically related to lack of corruption.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that has improved. Do you?
Well, I can't answer that question, but I think the focus should be on petty corruption, which affects the quality.
I agree.
It's petty corruption, not the bribing of people at the top level, a coal scam, this scam, that scam. And because that goes on anyway, whether it's now hidden or you go to Indonesia and you realize that they're growing in spite of their 10% corruption. I mean, the president's wife took 10% of every big deal. There was nothing anyone could do about it, but they still had the growth rate that they had. You go to Bangladesh, it's listed so badly in the index of corruption, and yet it has the growth rate that it has. And it's certainly no different in corruption than Pakistan, but Pakistan's growth rate is nothing compared to Bangladesh. So corruption does matter in growth rate, but what it really matters in is the quality of life. And that's why I put it there, that it's your daily harassment that has to stop, that nobody does anything for you. And I know if you try to set up a small company, register it, it's a big hassle. And if you try to close it, that's even a bigger hassle. Even closing a bank account in India is a big hassle. I have tried to close a bank account, and you don't know how difficult it is to even close your own account.
My friend's husband died. She's trying to close his down, and she's not able to. It's been 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that this is quality of life, So when I went to close the account, they said, so sure, sir, you can close the account, but we'll pay you with what is called as a bank draft in India. It's called a cashier's check. I said, and where do I deposit this? I don't have a bank account. So they said, no, our rule is that when you close the account, you get a bank draft. I said, what do I do with this bank draft? They said, sir, that's your problem, not mine. So, this is quality of life. You are sitting there getting frustrated because it's your own money and they won't give it to you. You can't go to the same bank and say, here's a bank draft, can you cash it? No, sir, you don't have an account here, so you can't cash it. Anyway, I did, solve the problem because ultimately the person was sympathetic, right? And said, okay, you can deposit in your Bhabhi's account in the branch in another part of the city. So I was able to do it. But that is quality of life, the service at that level. And this is not corruption. This is just quality of life. So anyway, that's the point that I want to
No, no, it
Now-
is also corruption. Many of them want you to, even at that level, want you to give them something, and then they'll do your work for you.
No, and Akash's point on Wi-Fi, I just interviewed a person.
Petty corruption, as you
Petty
said.
corruption, retail corruption, not wholesale
Yeah.
corruption.
Yeah.
Petty
absolutely.
corruption is a big problem. Anyway, on Wi-Fi, I just talked to one person who's from a village in Telangana. I asked him, do you have Wi-Fi? He said, no. I know a woman who's doing a PhD in Tamil Nadu. She has no Wi-Fi in her village. And the villages don't have Wi-Fi. And when they do have Wi-Fi, I've talked to some villagers in Haryana, village students, and I can't hear more than 50% of what they're saying, but because the audio is so poor from the villages. So we really, their quality of life is being hampered, and also, of course, their growth prospects. Anyway, that is my point, that I want to bring this for discussion. I want people to think about it, comment upon it, because this is not something that is normally posed in this way as an equal goal to GDP growth. We cannot just have GDP growth as the only goal. I'm not against it at all. I put it up front as 1.2. Jobs and growth, yes, I want that, but I don't want to say that, we have, what is the quality of life in Bangalore? Gurushri, you are from there. Oh, fellow says, sir.
Well, I'll tell you that the infrastructure stinks.
Yes.
The quality of life is very bad.
Yeah.
But there are some other things that have improved. I mean, financial transactions can be done online. Property taxes can be paid online. And there is a place in each part of Bangalore. They have Bangalore 1, Bangalore 2. It's a building where you go and where all government services of a certain kind, you can get it done quite well and quite easily. But this is the rest, the infrastructure just is horrible, except for the metro. They built the metro, but they haven't built proper access. So if you are handicapped or disabled in some way, you can't use the one transport that should be really available to the disabled.
Okay, let's hear from the young people also, because you and I have talked quite a bit, but let's hear from the young people.
Yeah, please. Yeah, sure.
Because they are living there and they are feeling it every day.
Indeed.
So let's hear from them. I should talk less, obviously. Go ahead. So, Samarth, do you have some additional comments after hearing all the talk?
No, I agree with what you guys were discussing. Definitely there needs to be improvement. Like Gurushri mentioned, there have been some strides, in terms of trying to improve the infrastructure. Those are visible, to be honest. But then again, like you mentioned, this is a long way to go, right? We do have certain, especially Gurushri, to your point about handicapped as well as, from the point of view of inclusion, that is something that we do have. I do feel we do have a long way to go in terms of making more and more people feel inclusive, and making a policy that is inclusive of all. Beliefs as well as from all physical status. So that I think that should be a main focus going forward.
Okay, Samyak, do you have something to add at this point?
Yeah, I would like to add, and as Gurushri also mentioned, it's not just the metros maybe for the inclusive sort of infrastructure, but in every public place that you go, a very few of them might have ramps or stuff like that for disabled people, which is very, very necessary.
Yeah.
And secondly, I would also like to mention, as you were talking about the services and banks, etc., it's very poor, I would say. A few days back only, I had an interaction with the bank, and they kept on telling me that we have registered your complaint. It will get resolved in 2 hours. I called after 2 hours. They said there's no complaint. And that was one of the most renowned bank in India. So, and my question was, then whom did I talk to? And they were like, we don't know, we don't have records. And that was a very weird thing. And ultimately their response was, go to the bank branch. And my question was, if I had to go to the bank branch, I would have registered for net banking.
Yeah.
So there are very poor policies, or I would say implementation of policies that need attention. And I might be wrong here and would be happy to get corrected, but it also depends a lot on our contribution as citizens. There are a lot of facilities that we get, but we also don't utilize them well, or we just mismanage them. Like if we talk about traffic rules, there are plenty in Delhi, but how much are we following them? How much are we just ignoring them? That, oh no, there's no police inspector, let's just cross the red light. We should also be mindful of these things. That would my input.
Okay, Akash, anything from you?
Mostly agree with the points which have been made, and also about what talking about Bangalore. I would also like to say that a few days back I read in a newspaper about the traffic in Bangalore. The kind of like it was more than 1 or 2 hours people are wasting in just the traffic every day, every single day, and it's all dependent on the metro, as ma'am also said that that's the only way. And we can also understand that if traffic is so horrible, so bad, then what kind of population pressure falls on the metro? It's metro is even the metro system is a single track or double track. It's not that 4 or 5 tracks. It's not that 2 or 3 metros are running at the same time. So the huge population pressure will also fall, and eventually, in a couple of years, that would also lead to a disaster in that space also. And about the bank, also, I had also had similar experiences recently that issuing the complaints, mailing them, not getting reply, and this is what is happening here also. Especially in the private banks, at least I have seen that, and this has been a problem, and this has to be improved. And now here in Kolkata, at least the public transport is a bit developed. It's quite developed, though there is traffic problem, but we have ample amount of buses and autos and all that. But that's a good thing for us. But I have heard from friends and relatives from other cities that there is a problem there also, and that's also a huge problem. It's wasting too much time, and at this age we can't afford to waste 1 or 2 hours in traffic every single day, and that would be a big problem in terms of productivity.
Yeah, let me just add very briefly that there are success stories in India in different cities, and yet there isn't much cross-learning from that. For example, I know that in Pune, the garbage collection is quite good.
What is that?
Garbage collection in Pune is good. Okay.
Okay.
They come to your home, they come with 2 containers. You put one type of garbage in one container, you sort it out at home, you put the other type in the other container. It's called wet and dry. I don't know all the technical details, but there are 2 types of garbage that households have to separate out, and they come and they collect it, and it works well. Okay.
This is public service or private?
It's a public service. It's public service in Pune. It works well.
Because in Bangalore, the public service works so badly that the apartment building that I have, we have hired a private service.
Yeah, that's the obvious answer. That means the well-off people are able to put together that, listen, the air is bad, I put an air purifier in, right? This is wrong, I do it privately. Okay, so we can afford it at a certain level, but if you want to look at the public service, certainly you will find that some things work well, and there can be cross-learning. There's nothing about Pune. Maybe there is something about Pune, because even the auto rickshaws work better there than in any other places. But we can learn from each other. People say in Ahmedabad, what the World Bank calls BRT, bus rapid transit, it was supposed to be a failure, but it's now working well. So there is not enough cross-learning, I would say, across the states, across the cities, of what's going on. But anyway, that's not my point here. My point was very simple, that I want to raise this issue as the government is also public utilities. I included the public utilities, and banks can be considered public utilities because they are regulated. Okay. Anything that's regulated serves a lot of people is like a public utility. The RBI does regulate the banks, right? And they do have a say of what's happening. So it's these public utilities and public services that do make up the quality of life. Now that you can book your railway ticket online, that is certainly a big improvement, right? It's not something that's happened recently, but it is a big improvement. So we just need to keep improving everything. It's not that we haven't done something. Yes, quality of life in many ways has improved, but as we know, the traffic congestion has made the quality of life in metros worse, and nothing can be done about it, or at least nobody has a solution. Anyhow, that's not my point. My point is that I just want to raise it to a level where the quality of life is treated at par with the economic growth. That is the reason why I separated it out. And I just want everybody to start thinking that is not just your income, but your quality of life. I mean, how frustrated you are when you go to meet any public utility or any government office. And why should it be that way? Why can't our country work so that it is not a factor? That is my point. I don't want to discuss each individual point because I've already said my say. I just want to hear what others have to say. So, Guru,
I'll reverse the question to you and ask. You said, why isn't it that way? Why isn't it that way in India? I wonder.
What?
Why? I mean, there are so many countries that, as you said, Bangladesh or Indonesia or whatever, who are not who are quite corrupt, but they have very fairly efficient public services. What is it with India that we can't do it?
Well, I can only answer on a spot basis, a limited number of questions about the cities. The problem is that in our system of governance, the cities don't have any status. There is no legal status for a city governance. Okay, Smart Cities program comes from the union government. State governments have no smart city programs, and the city authorities, the municipal authorities, actually don't have any status at all. Okay, we have only 3 levels of governance. That is the union, state, and Panchayati Raj. And the city governance is actually under the chief minister. And that is a serious problem because chief ministers have learned that focusing on cities means losing elections. Chandrababu Naidu learned the lesson very badly and bitterly, built up Cyberabad next to Hyderabad, did everything to make it work, and promptly lost the next election because the focus on the city diverted the rural voters to somebody else. Same thing in Bangalore. When they wanted a new airport, no politician would give it to them because they said, listen, Deve Gowda said to the software people, you don't even hire my people. You hire nationally and internationally, and what jobs do my people get? Why should I help you? So the focus, the problem is that the city people actually have no say in the political system.
No, but there is a new airport in Bangalore.
After years of delay.
Yes,
after years of delay and probably lots of bribes paid by who knows who to whom. After years of delay, the plan, if you go back, Bangalore was an international city in 2004 and deserved a new airport, but there was no incentive to put it in place as soon as possible. The metro, of course, is an idea that every city is getting. But once again, the city has very little to do with it. It is approved by New Delhi to get you a metro. The funds come from somewhere else, and everything is, there's no municipal governance is very weak and not accountable at all to anybody because they are controlled by the state. So I would say in the city, it is difficult to get accountability because the so-called mayor and all, they have no powers whatsoever. They have no funds whatsoever. Everything else is done somewhere. As to the banks, I just don't understand it, but the rules are made by somebody and the staff really can't do much about it. But they could do more about it. And I must say that very often I've had good service from ICICI Bank. but there are times when the rules frustrate you. So I don't know why the rules are like that. They're meant to protect somebody, and it's difficult. In the old days, it was terrible. When we had to go and cash travelers' checks, I used to go to the same bank every day, to cash because they would only cash $100 at a time, and the woman would look through my passport every day. In the same way, I'd say, what are you looking at? You just looked through it yesterday. No, sir, this is the requirement. I have to look through your passport. I have to ask you the same questions every day. I said, what is going on? You're just wasting my 15 minutes. And this is the situation in Delhi, where, the local, what should I say, the sabzi ka big dukan, right? My wife went there and she had no money. And she says, oh, I bought all this, but I have paid no money. He said, it's okay. We know where you live. He says, how do you know? I don't live here. He said, ma'am, we know our customers. We know where you will live, where you live. So you leave the subsidies here. We'll send it to you and you make the payment at home. I don't have to ask where you live. So, the intelligence is there where they have to serve you and make some money. So indeed, the fellow sent somebody with the packet of subsidies. The fellow took the money and came home. Never asked what the address is. And the same thing, you go to the bank, they're looking through your passport as if you have manufactured it today. So I am frustrated by it. And that's why I'm saying that it's time to put it up front for discussion. I don't have the answers, obviously, but I just want to pose the issues. That's
good point. Yeah. Good,
I
good,
certainly
good.
don't claim to have the answers. I don't live in India. I certainly don't have the answers, but I think my job here is to raise the issue for the young people to a level where there is some clarity that, listen, it's not just economic growth, it's also the quality of life. And the third goal, which some of you have seen and anyway, is that we must have an international standing. So I just, in the end, Gurushri, Carl Yehutek, one of the senior guys at the World Bank, once told me, Subodh, never have more than 3 things to say. If you have more than 3 things to say, you have not thought it through. I took it very seriously and said, we cannot have more than 3 goals, right? It has to be comprehensive in 3 goals. 3 is the only thing that works. So following Gurushri may not know him, he was a senior person in energy. He said, look, you please say 3 things, no more. I can't hear after 3. So 3 goals is what I have following him. And it works well to say that, look, I can boil it down to 3 goals and very simple: economic growth, quality of life, international standing. Boil it down.
But Subodh, just as a joke, many people follow that rule, but then they go 3.1, 3.2, 3.3.
Well, I don't have that many. I have only 1.
No, you don't, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I have 1.5 and 2.2 and 3.3. So in all told, I have 10 sub-goals, no more than that, because I do want to say it as quickly as I can, as comprehensively as I can, and let somebody else come in and comment. It's open for, it's just first draft and open for discussion. And I very much am keen to get more people into the whole discussion. But really, I would say my main contribution in all this is to put quality of life as a key goal. It is not there in the literature.
Yeah, good.
In the Indian planning, it's not there. It's not cohesively and coherently articulated in the Indian discussion. And we keep talking about corruption, but we never know what we mean by corruption and how corruption hurts us or in what way it works. We talk about improvements. By the way, Akash, you mentioned the highways and the railways. They don't do anything for the villages or do very little, because neither the highways nor the high-speed trains really serve the villagers. It takes forever for them to get to the high-speed road, and it takes them forever to get to the high-speed train. They are quite far from it. So what would matter to them is actually the last mile connectivity of the bus from their village to the highway. And if you don't have a good road there and you don't have a good bus, then they don't get the direct benefits. So anyway, all this is done in terms of talk. But as I said, my main aim in NIDG 2 is to crystallize my own thinking that quality of life is as important as economic growth. And what can the government do to improve the quality of life? And we can also think about what else can be done in social norms to improve the quality of life. Okay, I've talked too much, so enough from me. If anybody else has something to say, we can continue. Otherwise, I think we have wrapped it up. Samyak, you're the first time in this group, so let's hear from you.
No, currently no comments from my end.
Okay, all right, that's great. All right, fine. So we've heard often from Samarth and Akash. They are my regulars, and Gurushri, of course, long-standing connection. So glad to have you here, Samyak. You had a tough time earlier connecting, but I hope you can connect and you bring us a perspective that economists often don't have. Okay, anybody else wants to say something? Otherwise, we end it here.
Yeah, nothing
Thank
from my
you.
side. Thank you.
Thank you all. Let's end it here. And
Thank you.
we will have many more discussions and hopefully we'll all be there and keep it going forward. So thank you. It's a great dream of mine coming true that I can engage with young people in India, though we are so far from you in terms of age and cult distance, but yet I think the connection is there. I mean, I have lived in the US more than 50 years now. And the age gap is so much that both for Gurushri and me, that it's amazing that we can connect with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoy it tremendously, by the way.
Yeah. We all enjoy it. And that's what my friend TC Raghavan, who's my classmate and lives in Delhi, he said, Subodh, it's really fun to talk to young people because we don't get to talk to them at our age anymore. Right?
And we learn.
And we learn.
Because we're living here so far away, we don't have immediate connections frequent. So thank you, young guys, young lady.
Okay, let's end it here and see
Thank you.
you at some other time. Okay, bye.
Yeah.